Salut les amis, c'est Chess Opus, j'espère que vous allez bien. On se retrouve aujourd'hui pour la suite, c'est bientôt la fin de notre aventure Crime et Châtiment, le jeu Sherlock Holmes, le 7e de la franchise, mais le 6e que je fais sur la chaîne. Et oui, on s'approche puisque... bon, hier je me suis lâché, j'ai fait un épisode de 2 heures. En plus en passant des cadenas, ce qui n'est pas vraiment mon habitude, mais bon, j'avais la flemme. Et j'étais pris dans l'histoire parce que vraiment, elle était très bien cette enquête, la 5e, là donc, l'avant-dernière, tragédie à Kew Gardens. Oui, parce que on va entamer aujourd'hui la 6e et donc dernière enquête qui constitue le jeu. Ça a passé quand même assez vite, hein. Voilà, on voit l'éthique d'ailleurs, hein, les statistiques de Kew Gardens, juge impitoyable. Allez, je vous propose qu'on enchaîne tout de suite. Avant, juste, je vais regarder si c'est bien lancé. Ok, c'est bon. Allez, un épisode, on va revenir à un épisode normal, hein, d'une heure, à peu près, hein, c'est pas non plus... succès déverrouillé, fleur de mort. Oui, la pauvre, enfin la pauvre, elle était coupable, mademoiselle Smith, White, pardon. Je sais pas pourquoi je veux dire Smith à chaque fois. Non, White, j'ai pas pu l'empêcher d'en venir au suicide. Bon, écoutez, hein. Watson, encore une fois, a été un gros balourd. Bref, tout ça pour dire que j'ai loupé le QTE. Secret au clair de lune. Eh bien, allons-y.
Where are you going, Holmes? Have you been invited somewhere?
We have been invited, Watson,
We have. Where to?
to the Baker Street Irregulars' annual dinner. They sent us an invitation. It is on the table.
A dinner. How could those street urchins afford anything like that? I can't understand your interest in them, Holmes. They're dirty. They wouldn't hesitate to steal your wallet. They...
Watson, you should be excited. It is a secret dinner. Its location changes every year. Read the menu. Sounds mouth-watering.
All right. We, the secret police of Baker Street,
Là, oh là, oh là, oh là.
invite you, Sherlock Holmes, and Dr. Watson to our annual dinner. Menu, entree, frozen rat head salad. Is this a joke?
Not at all. Pray continue.
Main course, sow's udder in Danny Nutcracker's way.
Danny!
Sounds disgusting, Holmes. Hedgehog goulash. Street turnips in homemade juice. And it goes on.
Ah, I can hear them on the stairs now.
Oh, we can't go there. We can't eat that.
Watson, you'll hurt the feelings of those poor children. We have to go.
Oh, Mr. Holmes.
It is fine, Mrs. Hudson.
Mr. Holmes!
Wiggins, Dr. Watson is getting ready. He will be delighted to join us. You don't look well, my young man. Is there something wrong? Don't tell me the dinner is cancelled.
Mr. Holmes is my brother Leighton. He's in a prison cell. They say he's killed 2 men. You have to help us, Mr. Holmes, because I know he didn't do it.
Where is he now?
From what I've heard, they took him to the yard, and they gave him a good beating already. You know what they're like. They'll hang him. They won't look any further.
Holmes, we have to help him.
Well, and forget about the dinner? Wiggins, I'll take the case.
You're fantastic, Mr. Holmes. I'll be waiting for you at the crime scene. You'll be there, right? It's on Half Moon Street in Whitechapel.
Very well.
Ok. Non, attends. 2 secondes. Résoudre le crime de Half Moon Street, examiner la scène du crime, interroger Lighton et examiner ses effets personnels à Scotland Yard. Oui, bah effectivement, l'orthographe est approximative, mais ils peuvent pas être BSI et travailler et en même temps aller à l'école, hein. Wiggins, le jeune informateur de Holmes, sollicite l'avis de ce dernier pour une affaire familiale. Son frère aîné Layton a été arrêté par la police et accusé d'un double meurtre. Juge impitoyable. Ah ouais, on a condamné tout le monde, hein. On l'a condamné, arrêté et condamné. Voilà, il nous reste 3 personnages. Non, mais ça a été très vite. Alors oui, tiens, on va regarder ce que je voulais voir. Déjà, on va regarder si Danny est toujours là. C'est n'importe quoi ce truc. Ça m'aura fait rire tout le let's play. Et le petit Toby. Mince, je me suis trompé. Non, c'est bon, c'est bon. T'es bien joli. Enfin, faut aimer quoi, mais on va passer à autre chose.
Hello, Toby. All you need
Ah.
now is a shawl and a mock
Succès
cap,
déverrouillé,
and
signe
you
aux
could
filles.
be Mrs. Hudson's younger sister.
Oh. Non, mais on joue plus avec Toby qu'avec Watson, presque. C'est tir. Non, je voulais voir. Généralement, il y a un petit mot après chaque. Voilà. Après chaque affaire résolue. Petit article. The Times. Sensationnel. Un meurtre d'agent nouveau. L'arsenal de nos criminels modernes se dote de plantes empoisonnées. À Kew Gardens, une ravissante jeune femme de mèche avec un collègue a orchestré l'odieux assassinat de Mr. Montague Dune, leur directeur. Un seul détective a été capable de découvrir cette infâme machination. Derrière une apparente crise cardiaque, ce détective a pour nom Sherlock Holmes. Eh ouais. Bon allez, on y va. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? On va interroger, on va à la scène de crime. Allez hop. J'espère au moins qu'il apprécie ses lectures. Ah oui, non, c'est pas là. C'était de l'autre côté. Ouais, Half Moon. Ok. Très Whitechapel, effectivement. Charmant. Ah, nous y sommes.
Please, gentlemen, leave the scene now. Oh, Mr. Holmes, is that you?
Good evening, Constable...
Constable Marrow. I was here with Inspector Aberline during the Ripper case, Mr. Holmes, back in '88. But then this is nothing like that case. With this one, we've got the murderer, the weapon, and the statements, which speak for themselves.
Of course, Mara. But you know that appearances can sometimes be deceiving.
Alors, victime.
Who were the victims?
The two men here, both shot. The stab fellow was Brian Vercotti, a well-known ruffian.
Et
The
deux
other,
morts,
Kenneth
carrément.
Butler, a jeweler by trade.
Y a-t-il des témoins?
You spoke of statements. You have witnesses?
Well, I was there, so I gave my own statement. And then there were two other witnesses who said they saw the killer Chapman. Mr. Turner, a gentleman who lives in that flat over there. And Polly Powell, a flower seller, who was over at the far side of the street.
Oui, très bien.
So, Constable Marrow, I should be delighted to hear your testimony.
I was standing at the north side of Half Moon Street. That was the side that you came from.
But you would have been unable to observe this part of the street, where we are standing now.
That is correct. But I saw the two victims slowly enter Half Moon Street, and then shortly after, the fireworks started. A few minutes after that, the fellow Chapman rushed towards me and ran into Half Moon Street.
Please continue.
I didn't pay attention, but suddenly I heard a woman's cries and police whistles on the other side of Half Moon Street. I rushed over there and I saw the two dead bodies on the ground. When I reached Whitechapel Street, I saw Leighton Chapman. He'd been caught by two police constables.
Mais là, il y a des choses
Did
à dire.
you hear the shots?
I didn't hear any shots. The fireworks were all over the sky. They were so loud I couldn't hear anything else.
L'artifice.
What were the fireworks in honor of, Constable?
Well, today's Queen Victoria's birthday, Mr. Holmes.
Ah, yes, I appear to have lost track of the days. It is May now, of course. Constable Marrow, what else caught your attention while you were running through Half Moon Street?
I saw nothing but rats, and I took the time to light every corner with my lamp.
Fenêtre de Monsieur
Did you
Turner.
happen to look up at Mr. Turner's window when you were on Half Moon Street at that time?
Yes, I saw that the window was open, but no one was there. It was dark in the room.
Constable, your statements have been of great value to me.
On va examiner les corps quand même.
The bullet struck his head. This man didn't stand a chance.
Ah,
This is an ordinary key. I wonder what kind of door it opens.
c'est ça. Très bien.
A piece of
So
wood
what?
that has stuck between the cobblestones. Let us take a closer look. This shard of wood is quite new.
D'accord. Et l'autre? Toujours aussi charmant, hein?
A tattoo from Westgate Prison.
Hey, Westgate.
Cotti must have done some time there.
C'est là qu'était le psychopathe, là, dans le testament de Sherlock Holmes.
He tried to stop the bleeding with his hand. Death was not instant. The bullet penetrated his stomach, a dreadful wound. Brian Vercotti suffered greatly. What a terrible way to die.
Tout.
It would be my pleasure to assist you with your investigation, Mr. Holmes.
Ok. Alors, le témoin.
Good evening, Mr. Turner.
I heard Constable Marrow reply to you as Mr. Holmes. Are you that detective gentleman? I've heard of you. And well, I know things about this evening.
Excellent. Might we hear your story?
Alors, c'est quoi ton témoignage?
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
I was already in bed when the fireworks started. A few moments after, I clearly heard 2 gunshots from outside.
Please continue.
I quickly got up and I grabbed the lamp from my nightstand and I rushed towards the window. I looked down and I saw 2 bodies. And there was a man with a gun who was standing nearby.
Where exactly?
Well, near this body.
Did he notice you?
I don't think so. He rushed towards Whitechapel Street without looking around.
Il y a quelqu'un d'autre?
Mr. Turner, did you see anyone else in the street?
No, I saw no one but that man, the murderer, the fellow they caught.
De coups de feu?
Were the 2 shots you heard consecutive?
Yes, there was a very short pause between them, and they sounded different somehow. It seemed to me that the second shot was louder than the first.
That is an interesting comment.
Après la fuite?
Mr. Turner, what were your actions after you stepped up to the window?
I was afraid that the man with a gun might return, so I stayed close to the window till I saw the policeman coming into Half Moon from Whitechapel. Then I walked out to tell them everything I saw.
D'accord. je la trouve pas, la troisième. Ah.
You have helped us a great deal, Mr. Turner.
Déjà? Je peux déjà faire une déduction? Turner à la fenêtre. Coup de feu. Voilà. Ou coup de feu. Ou fenêtre. Peut-être fenêtre. Ouais. Témoignage contradictoire. Mr. Turner a affirmé être resté à la fenêtre de son appartement jusqu'à l'arrivée de la police. Pourtant, Marrow a précisé n'avoir vu personne à la fenêtre. Qu'est-ce que tu fais là? Polly Powell, deuxième témoin.
Mrs. Powell?
What do you want?
My name is Sherlock Holmes. I'm assisting the police with their investigation of the crime that took place this evening.
Well, I've already gave my testimony, but very well.
Ah, vas-y.
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
Yes. I was selling my flowers as usual, and then the fireworks began, in honour of Queen Victoria. I enjoyed those. But then, all of a sudden, a young lad ran out of Half Moon Street and stopped. He was like a ghost, and all covered in blood. It was dark, but I could see him, because of the flashes from the fireworks.
And then?
I screamed as loud as I could. I knew that a policeman should be on duty in the vicinity. He had no time to escape. 2 constables got him. Then another constable came out from the very same street, and I heard him talking of a horrible murder.
Et coup de feu.
Mrs. Powell, did you hear the gunshots?
I'm not sure. You know, what with the fireworks?
Quelqu'un d'autre?
Did you see anyone else leaving Half Moon Street prior to or at the time of the crime?
No, sir, I did not. Even with all the fireworks, I was very attentive, as I'm always on the lookout for customers.
My thanks to you, Mrs. Powell.
D'accord, je fais quoi maintenant? Témoignage contradictoire, bah on va peut-être voir... revenir voir le Turner alors. Peut-être faire le... Higgins, il est
Mr.
là.
Holmes, did you see my brother at
Ah, faut
Scotland
qu'on aille à
Yard?
quoi, à Scotland Yard, c'est
Is
vrai.
he all right?
Ah. Témoignage contradictoire, voilà.
Mr. Turner, you have stated that you remained close by your window after the crime, is that correct?
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. I stayed at my window until the policeman arrived to examine the dead bodies.
C'est contradiction, claudication. Non, contradiction.
That is very interesting, Mr. Turner. Constable Marrow stated that he did not see anyone at the window when he was running through Half Moon Street.
Well, I think Constable Marrow and me, we might have been distracted by the whistles and shouts coming from Whitechapel. We could have missed each other somehow. You understand what I mean? It was a bit of a stressful moment, to tell you the truth, sir.
Allow me to form my own theories, Mr. Turner. Would you mind showing me the view that you had from your window?
Not at all, Mr. Holmes. Please, follow me.
Mr. Turner appears to live
donc on va
very
voir.
modestly. This fire is dying out. It was last tended to over an hour ago.
Ah, papier roulé.
The papers are almost entirely burned. I am unable to see what's written here. These words are illegible. The papers were thrown into the fire just a short while ago.
Ah, il est pas clair ce Turner.
This kitchen knife is quite sharp. There are pieces of shredded paper scattered over the table. This kitchen knife was used to cut the paper.
Mhm.
Anything else you would like to know, Mr. Holmes?
So, that's the view Mr. Turner had when he opened the window.
Ouais, il voit bien quand même là.
The dead body of Kenneth Butler. Brian Vercotti's contorted corpse. Mr. Turner had a perfect view of the crime scene. He saw the bodies clearly, and Leighton Chapman standing over them.
Mhm. Mais ouais, non, mais il voyait. Est-ce que c'était pas un peu sombre quand même?
The books on this shelf are in a mess. It looks as though Mr. Turner was trying to find something in a hurry here a short while ago. A perfect match. So, Mr. Turner broke his stick when it became stuck between the cobblestones. He did not mention that he was so near to the victims.
Oui, non, mais ça démarre bien.
Mr. Turner was roused from his bed by the sound of gunshots.
Non. Non. c'est pas évident. Hein. Il s'est levé. Bon, il s'est levé. Je comprends pas. Ah, d'accord. Il s'est levé. Ouais, j'y arrive pas là. J'y arrive pas. Il s'est levé, il a regardé en bas. Ah, c'est logique quoi à un moment donné. Paraît pas mal ça. Jouer la séquence. On va voir ce que ça donne. N'hésite pas à avancer encore. Hein. On avance rapide parce que sinon on y est encore demain.
No, it didn't happen this way.
Ah, pourquoi? Il est redescendu à ce moment-là. Il a cassé sa canne. Pourquoi il a fait ça, ça mystère. Il a pris quelque chose. Je vais vérifier quand même. Attendez, une seconde. Il a pris quelque chose. Non, il n'y a que celui-là, là. C'est bon. Il a pris le papier. Il a coupé le papier. Je vais y arriver, hein, excusez-moi. Je suis concentré. Il a acheté quelque chose. Bon, on va tenter ça. Alors, vas-y. Bon, dis-moi que c'est ça, s'il te plaît, parce que... Suspense. Oui.
So Mr. Turner
Oui.
used a book to hide
Merci.
an object that he found on Kenneth Butler's body. The question is, what did he find?
Qu'est-ce qu'il a trouvé? Je ne sais pas.
I can see prints from greasy fingers upon the cover of this book. Let us take a closer look. Well now, what a find. A precious
Ouais,
jewel
là, ça a l'air compliqué, hein.
concealed inside a book.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que ce truc?
A bracelet
Tête de mouflon.
with a unique ram's head design. A distinctive feature of ancient Grecian artifacts, probably of the Hellenistic era.
Dis donc là, toi là, c'est quoi ce truc? Ouais. Qu'est-ce que t'as été
Mr.
fait, là?
Turner, how would it be possible for a man of advanced years, such as yourself, to rush from his bed to the window in a matter of seconds, as you have stated?
Well, I'm able to move very quickly, despite my age.
Ouais, ouais, tu parles.
And when the situation requires it, Mr. Holmes.
Tu bluffes, Martini. La claudication.
I highly doubt that, Mr. Turner. I observe that you suffer a severe limp due to your injured right leg. It would have taken at least 10 seconds for you to approach the window. That means you could have easily missed something or someone in Half Moon Street during that time.
You're right, Mr. Holmes. I could have missed something. But it did seem to me that everything happened so quickly. Oh, time can pull tricks on you.
Bon, dis-moi toute la vérité, s'il te plaît.
And what of everything else that you told us? Mr. Turner, it is vital that we have your complete and true statement.
Mr. Holmes, I do assure you that the other things I said were most sincere.
C'est quoi ce bracelet alors?
Mr. Turner, you were not sincere with me. Not then and not now.
But Mr. Holmes,
This, Mr. Turner, does not look like anything that a poor man might possess. It is worth more than the home that you live in.
I can explain.
No, merely correct me if I am wrong. You saw Leighton Chapman through the window, but you also noticed a glittering object on the ground, this precious jewel. You walked down and took the bracelet from the body of Kenneth
Eh ben,
Butler,
bravo.
and when you heard the whistles, you hurried away. That broke your walking stick. It caught fast between the cobbles. Constable Marrow was unable to see you in the window as you were climbing up the stairs on your way back to your flat. Upon returning home, you hid the precious jewel inside a book.
Mr. Holmes, please don't send me to prison. I didn't do anything bad. I'm just a
pas une
poor
raison.
man.
Allez en
When I
tôle.
chanced upon the bracelet, I
No,
saw it
peut-être
as
pas.
an opportunity to make a little money. I was desperate. I only took the bracelet, that's all, I swear.
You made a mistake by lying to me. But you are not a criminal. I believe that. Although I must return this bracelet to its rightful owner.
Bien, 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 bien. Alors, on en est où là? On en est où? On est pas mal, on est pas mal. Bracelet antique. Donc ouais, il faut qu'on aille consulter les archives. Ah bah le voilà, Ryan Turner. Plus que 2 personnages. Aïe aïe aïe. Ryan Turner, la soixantaine, est un vétéran de la guerre de Crimée, c'est qu'il ne manque jamais de rappeler. C'est sans doute à la guerre qu'il s'est fait cette blessure à la jambe qui le fait claudiquer. Il mène une vie assez miséreuse. Bon, on va aller à Scotland Yard. Hein. Allez hop, c'est parti. Hein. Ça part bien, en tout cas. Ça part très très bien. Petite enquête. Qui est donc la dernière, Sniff.
Mr. Holmes, whatever brings you here so late at night?
I'm interested in the case of young Leighton Chapman. He was arrested earlier this evening and
Ça se trouve,
accused
c'est
of a
lui, hein.
double murder.
Non.
I beg your pardon. That case is quite clear to the police. Or are there any new facts that we don't know about?
Who knows, Inspector?
Look, you are free to investigate, of course, Mr. Holmes. Chapman was arrested with a revolver in his possession, which you can find in the evidence room. The suspect himself is in custody.
Did you find anything else on his person?
A few personal belongings. Nothing particular, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Lestrade.
Ok, bah allons-y. Alors regardez les CV, puis allons l'interroger.
So this is the gun that Leighton was holding when he was caught by the police. It is a Webley revolver, a reliable weapon. It seems as though the shells were not removed from the cylinder. Two out of the 6 shells have been fired. There were 2
Au moins on a l'arme du
shots.
crime. A priori.
These cigarettes are filled with cheap tobacco. Nothing interesting. A cheap watch, bought with his own money, no doubt.
Ah, petite déduction peut-être. Ah. On a 5 déjà. Welton a été appréhendé après le crime de Halfmoon Street. Il tenait un revolver dont 2 cartouches avaient été tirées. Ah ça alors. Ouais. 2 cartouches, 2 coups de feu. Coup de feu simultané. Si Turner a entendu une différence entre les 2 coups de feu, c'est qu'en réalité 3 coups ont été tirés, un premier isolé puis 2 simultanément juste après. c'est ça, c'est ça. Pourquoi tu fais ça? Aucun butin, témoignage concordant. Non, ça doit être ça. Kenneth Butler et Brian Vercotti, ou Verciotti, ont été victimes d'un double assassinat perpétré par une seule personne. Ah! Je sais pas ce que je fais, mais je le fais. Hein. Preuve accablante, les positions des témoins et l'arme du crime pointent tout vers un unique coupable, Leighton Chapman. J'ai dû me gourer quelque part là, parce que c'est rouge, mais c'est peut-être fait exprès. Mais c'est ça, c'est sûr. Bon, écoutez, hein, c'est peut-être fait exprès. Donc nous, on va aller directement. Tiens, viens là, toi.
Please escort this suspect for interrogation. Good evening, Mr. Chapman.
Who are you? I've got nothing to say. It's all a mistake.
Calm down, Leighton. I have
Attends,
come here
mec,
to
on
help
vient
you.
pour toi là.
To find out if you truly are innocent, as your younger brother Wiggins has told me.
My brother? You know him? Then that means you're...
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, blimey. All right, Mr. Holmes. I'll tell you everything.
Vas-y.
Good.
Accouche.
Tell me your account of what happened.
I left my work and I hurried up to see the fireworks in Whitechapel. I was late, so I decided to cut through Half Moon Street. I saw the first fireworks light up in the sky. I bumped into a constable on a corner before entering Half Moon. Then suddenly, what with all the firework flare, I saw two men. They were both lying flat in the middle of the street. I stopped where I was. I thought about turning back to the police, but as I was thinking of that, I saw a third person. He was leaning over the body that was furthest from me. The second I saw him, he raised his head and he stared at me. In a flash, I saw his gun, but he made a dash for it instead and he escaped through Whitechapel Street.
Temps de revenir.
So you might still have had time to return to the constable.
I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I approached the bodies just to see if they
Non,
were
je
still
pense qu'il est
alive.
innocent. Non.
I saw that one had
Alors c'est
blood
pervers.
pumping out of his stomach. He was dying.
Oh.
It was horrible. Second one was already dead. He had a hole in his head. He was holding a gun in his hand, though. I took it, and then I followed the third man.
Continuez, cher ami.
Interesting. Pray, continue.
I turned a corner, and I saw the man standing in the middle of the street. He seemed to be in some sort of panic. And then, Mr. Holmes, something strange happened. I told the police and they laughed at what I said, but I swear to you, my words are true. I started running towards him. But then I was blinded by a flash. It was so bright that I hardly saw anything for a good dozen seconds. But I kept running forward. As I arrived in Whitechapel, I heard a woman screaming. And then I was caught by the police. But there wasn't a trace of that man. Of course, then they found a gun and all that blood. I couldn't see the murderer escaping and all that mess. Perhaps I was still half-blinded at that moment.
A thrilling account, my young man.
Le troisième homme. Très bon film d'ailleurs.
Leighton, are you able to describe the person whom you saw standing in Half Moon Street?
Well, I wasn't able to see his face at all. It was too dark, and he was too far away. I could see his silhouette.
And what about that?
Nothing so special. He was wearing a jacket. He was quite average in size and his weight.
I see. Was there anything else that struck you at the time?
No. But perhaps it's strange, but I can't remember the sound of his footsteps as he was running away. Perhaps it was because of the fireworks or the surprise of me seeing him.
Alors,
Leighton, I confess I am puzzled. Why should a young lad like you take a gun from the hands of a dead man and set
Une
off
vocation
in
de policier,
pursuit of a
peut-être.
probable killer?
I know. I keep wondering that, but at the time it was like a reflex. A criminal ought to be arrested, and he was armed.
You were willing to risk your life. That was a little foolish, unless you wanted revenge.
No, Mr. Holmes. I was just being brave and stupid.
juste du courage, juste du courage, juste du courage. Ah, peut-être co-détenu, hein. Peut-être co-détenu à Westgate. Ouais.
I'm sure that you were, but I believe that you may have recognized one of the victims, Brian Vercotti. You knew that gentleman well, did you not?
However could you know that?
You have a typical tattoo of the Westgate Brotherhood upon your hand. I
Oui.
observed exactly the same mark upon Mr. Vercotti. You came to know him from your sharing a past prison sentence. Am I correct, Mr. Chapman?
God. You're right, Mr. Holmes.
Ah, vas-y, parle-moi de Brian. Where
Would
is
you
Brian?
tell me a little about Brian
He's dead.
Vercotti?
We were convicted for a robbery. Once in prison, both of us joined one of these fraternities. During that year, we tried to help each other out, you know?
You were quite young then, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, we were. We'd only stolen a pound of meat. After we were released and when I saw what my little brother had become, I decided to work towards living an honest life.
And Vercotti?
He had a hard time. His sister had died in a Whitechapel dispensary while he was in prison. He had no family anymore. Our paths split. He fell back into crime.
So you lost him.
Yes. And for around 2 years, I heard no news
Tu
of him
tombes
at all.
dessus par hasard. Bon, ça peut arriver, hein. Mais...
We shall see you soon, young man.
Bah, vieille connaissance, ça c'est sûr. Non. Ça c'est sûr, puisque c'est ce qu'on vient de voir, mais est-ce qu'on peut le lier à quelque chose? Aucun butin, ouais, il avait rien sur lui. Ok. Motif de Leighton. Leighton Chapman connaissait sa victime et a pu tuer pour un motif personnel. Ah, on n'écarte pas le fait qu'il a... Bon, on va peut-être se quitter, non? Ah, pas tout à fait encore. Il y a peut-être eu un échange de tirs entre Kenneth Butler et Brian Vercotti sur Half Moon Street. Il faut examiner les corps et reconstituer la scène. Je l'ai fait, ça. Examiner le bracelet antique. Ah oui, ça. Bah, c'est ce qu'on va faire tout de suite. Alors. Donc, il ne reste plus qu'un personnage à découvrir. Frère Ned Wiggins, la vingtaine, Layton a grandi dans la rue, irrécupérable. Tête brûlée, il a commis un crime qui lui a valu d'être enfermé à la prison de Westgate. Il a maintenant abandonné l'école de la rue et vit sans doute en tant qu'employé d'un bureau londonien quelconque. Ah ouais, mais faut que je cherche dans quoi alors? Ça le problème. Oh le bazar. Non, c'est par là. Chercher le bracelet. Ça me paraît un bracelet antique. Ça me paraît un peu générique, British Museum. Ces magnifiques bijoux antiques ne sont qu'une partie de la collection Trésors hellénistiques. En illustration, un bracelet, un collier et une bague, tous trois en or massif, représentant 5 têtes de mouflons. Les 5 mouflons de Mytilène ont disparu du musée depuis 1885.
Here it is.
Ah, bah, peut-être qu'il
I
faut
need to
aller...
continue my research in my archives.
1885. Vol de trésors hellénistiques. Scandaleux larcin. Un vol de trésors hellénistiques a eu lieu hier soir alors qu'ils étaient acheminés en cab depuis le British Museum à destination de l'exposition de Beaux-Arts de Glassford. Kenneth Butler, prêteur sur gage à Church Street, a contacté Scotland Yard cette nuit pour signaler qu'un individu avait tenté de lui vendre une collection d'art historique. La police a depuis appréhendé l'homme, un voleur professionnel du nom de Vincent Foley, qui cherchait à quitter Londres par voie maritime. Il a été formellement reconnu par le cocher du cab transportant ladite collection. Vincent Foley a refusé d'avouer l'emplacement du reste des trésors. Il a été incarcéré, mais on ignore encore où se trouve son butin.
Here it is. One of the victims, Kenneth Butler, was involved in the story of the stolen Hellenistic treasures. A visit to his pawn shop should tell me more.
On va voir le prêteur sur gage. Allez, encore 5 minutes et puis on se quitte. On va juste jeter un coup d'œil là. Sur ce Vincent. Attends, excuse-moi. Oh là là. Pas l'air bien. Hein. Faut que je trouve Church Street, mais je trouve pas là. Où est-ce que c'est? D'accord. Bah, mais c'est où? Et là, j'arrive pas à trouver. Arrête de courir, toi. Arrête de courir. Et par là? On peut pas. Bah. Bah je trouve pas le prêteur sur gage. Ah si, c'est là. Oh,
Mr. Butler's key matches the lock perfectly. Crampons and a sharp ice axe would only be brought here by a mountaineer.
Ah, faut utiliser quelque chose.
A flare pistol. Perhaps it was pawned by a destitute sailor.
Collier.
The ram's heads. This necklace belongs to the 5 Rams of Mittelin collection. Interesting. That means that Kenneth Butler owned a part of this collection all this time, 10 years after the theft.
Salut Kenneth, je me rappelle que tu m'as parlé de 3 antiquités grecques et des bijoux en or avec des têtes de mouflons. Tu les as toujours? Figure-toi que j'ai trouvé un daim huppé qui raffole ses breloques, il est prêt à raquer une petite fortune. Je peux te faire rencontrer cette tirelire sur pattes contre une part du gâteau. Je t'attendrai dimanche soir au carrefour de Great Alley et de Half Moon Street avant le feu d'artifice, Brian. Bercotti, oh là 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 là. Oh, encore une déduction? Antiquité disparue. Non, c'est pas ça. Ah, bah mince, je me suis précipité là. Je sais pas ce que c'est. Mince. Peut-être 2 victimes. Ouais. Mobile, le butin, le crime de Half Moon Street est peut-être lié à la recherche des trésors analytiques disparus. Mr. Turner a ramassé les bracelets juste après le meurtre, mais il manque encore la bague. Leighton Chapman connaît sa victime et a pu tuer par motif personnel. Mais non. Mais il est pour rien. Il y est pour rien, lui. Bon, on va se quitter là. On va se quitter tranquillement. Qu'est-ce que tu fais, toi? Ah, il y a celui-là aussi. Ah,
It looks as though Mr. Butler kept a careful record of his operations.
Vérifier qu'on a un allié.
A flare pistol.
Non, je trouve pas. Mais pourquoi on peut pas le prendre, le truc, là? Non. crois que j'ai vu une...
Crampons and a sharp ice axe would only be brought here by a mountaineer.
Ouais, c'est assez mystérieux. Qu'est-ce qu'on pourrait faire là? Peut-être retourner sur la scène de crime alors dans ces cas-là. Ouais. Allez, on part pour Half Moon Street et on se quitte. Elle part bien cette enquête, elle part bien. Elle me plaît bien. Elle a l'air assez complexe. Mais pour l'instant pas bloqué. Voilà, j'espère que ça vous a plu, cette entame de dernière enquête, de dernier chapitre du jeu. Ouais, vous aussi, parce que moi j'aime beaucoup. On va se rapprocher. Alors, je sais pas, hein, ça dépend. Hein, vraiment, les durées d'enquête sont variables. Il y a très très court, il y a relativement court, il y a long, il y a très long. Je ne sais pas. Ça peut être fini demain comme après-demain. Donc, voire après-demain. Donc, je peux pas vous dire. Mais de toute façon, il y aura le débrief. Si c'est le dernier épisode demain, voilà, ça peu importe. Hein, c'est le seul moment où je m'autorise à déborder. Non, vraiment, hier, c'était exceptionnel. Hein, je me suis laissé emporter. Franchement, j'essaie quand même de garder le rythme. On est quand même tout proche de la fin du jeu, hein, forcément. Donc il reste un épisode 2, voire 3. On verra bien. J'espère que ça vous a plu. Je vous donne rendez-vous donc demain pour la suite, peut-être la fin, on verra, de Sherlock Holmes, Crime et Châtiment. Portez-vous bien et à demain. Ciao.